Welcome to Arts for the Health of It, a podcast where you will discover creative ways to improve your health and well-being. Someone may have told you that art isn't for you, but they were wrong. Anyone can create arts for the health of it. No talent or experience necessary.
I'm just a little songbird, try to fly my way homeward with the melody, and I make the beat. Don't know where it'll take me, cause when I'm in the dark of night, I sing my way back to the light. Come along with me and your heart will see that a song changes everything. Oh, oh, oh.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Arts for the Health of It. I'm your host, Richard Wilmore.
And I'm Constanza Rader. Very good to be here today.
Before we start, can I just say that watching that video, the intro video, makes me realize I need to make another one, because I think, like, you're always very consistent in all of those little shots. And I've gone through, I think, 25 different cameras and 14 different microphones since this podcast has started, and way too many hairstyles, and my face is like thinner and fatter in some of them. It's very funny to watch that. You're like, huh, okay, I don't know. And Winnie's in there. It's a very funny little thing to me. Anyway, that's not why we're here. This is not my therapy session.
So cliffhanger, you may see a new intro soon.
Yeah, season 2 can't get here soon enough, I think.
Well, we're really excited today. We're talking with artist Tony Swaby, and if I mispronounce that, Tony, let me know when you come on. But he is a portrait artist, and he discovered his love of the arts and uses it as a way to return to joy. And he discovered all that during his experience with cancer. So he's going to be talking about that with us today, and he's going to be sharing some of the resources that he has to help other people find that joy in portraiture. So yeah, we're excited to talk with him.
And he said right before we went live that he's done 3 portraits already today.
What have you done today, Richard?
Right. I went to the gym and then wanted to take a nap. That's what I wanted to do. That's insane to me. So this is from Tony. After 30 years of working in data management, design, and development, he got cancer. Determined to live a better life, he developed something called the joy principle. At the core was to do things that brought him joy. One such thing was making portraits. And he started making portraits in October 2019 and hasn't stopped. He has over 1,000 of them, and he now wants to share his approach and the things he's learned. So let me change all the screens and bring out Tony Swaby. Hi, Tony.
Hi.
Welcome.
Welcome. What time is it there? Where are you, and what time is it?
It is, I'm in England, I'm in Yorkshire, and it is 5:09
p.m.
Right.
which is tea time in Yorkshire.
Yes.
So we're talking to you from the future. Excellent.
Yes. Oh, yeah, definitely.
So it's
definitely.
not crazy that you've done 3 portraits today, because it's only 11 a.m. here. When you said that, I was like, I haven't been up that long. Like,
No. Well, today is a long day. I've been up since 5 this morning, so it's 12 hours for me. So
we'll make this quick so you can go to bed.
No.
Okay. As you said, like I was saying before, that you've done 3 today. Is that normal, or did you just have like an urge? And are these just random? Like, are these actual people, or is this just stuff you're making up?
No, it varies. It's always from reference. I always draw from life, or from video. I do certain things that some artists don't do. I like to draw the emotion. For me, it's all about an emotional connection. That's what it responds to, an emotional connection. That's what makes portraits work. It's not about making photographic replicas. It's about that emotional connection. And it's very much, I talk about in my course about that drawing isn't art. And because I believe that we connect as in a childlike way to humans, to each other. And it's that response that we need to do. We need to be the curious child. That's how we draw. That's how we properly draw, is to try and make sense of the world. And lots of us still do it in doodles and things. That's still trying to make sense of things, and that's really what, for me, what drawing is about. So the emotional connection and the response determines the way I treat a portrait, and often they can be really quick. They can be 15 minutes, you know, in a portrait. And because and when I connect to it, you see, I don't want to draw every line that I see. I want to draw enough for you to see what I see. So it's just enough. It's always about capturing the essence. That's what drawing a portrait is all about. So yeah, so that's if sometimes it's one a day, and other times it'll be 5 a day, and I work on them simultaneously, because I keep swapping over from one board to another, and that's, you know, that's how it is for me. And it depends. I mean, if it's oil painting, you have to wait for it to dry, and you know, all that sort of thing. But generally with charcoal, it's pretty quick.
Mm. Well, can you tell us a little bit about your story, your journey, how cancer played a part, how the arts played a part of that?
Yeah. Well, what happened was, and this is probably something else that you could find useful, is that after I went, it was a kind of life or death thing with the cancer. I've got bowel cancer, but it was a blockage, completely blocked, and I was rushed in and had to be operated on straight away. And they said I'd had it for about 8 years, but that it was just manifested at Christmas in 2017. And I've always had this method of coping with things by remembering things, joyful things in my life, and I always referred to it as my joy shield. So I had this shield thing idea, and somebody came to see me, and a religious person came to see me about the prospect of what's going to happen. I'm not religious, but my mother is, and she sent this priest to see me, and he asked me things like, he said, "Had I got any fears about what's about to happen, or what would happen after it, the event?" And I said no, because, and in a way, it fired up my joy shield, because of all the things, my sons and my wife, and getting, you know, married, and honeymoon in Paris, all those things were such joyful events that they became so strong that I literally went through it with no fear at all, because of this shield. And I didn't really understand what it was that was doing this. And afterwards, I decided to try and sort it out and try and think about what it was, and break it down, and why joy is such a precious thing, and how it had been trivialized, because it's such a short word. You see it on Christmas cards, and it's like, so everybody uses that. I mean, it's more popular now, but back in the day, it was just a trivial little word. But it's such a powerful word. It's the seed of hope. You know, it's the essence of life is joy, and that's all we need to live for, in the moment, joy in the moment. So it kind of, I went through the process of putting together the joy principle, and I've developed a tool where you can measure how much joy you've got in your life. It's online. You can just go there and ask you certain questions to set baselines about how you feel about your family and your friends and the world around you. And then it asks you, have you met someone new today? Have you made new friends? Or have you seen your family? Have you spent time with somebody? Have you helped somebody? Ask you all these things, and it gives you a score at the end of it. And you can work out, there's about 400 or 500 people every week use the joy meter, as I call it, to find out how much joy they've got in their life. So I'll put a link in it, and you can put the link around. But it's a free thing. It's just an app on the web. And so when I'd recovered from the cancer, I just wanted to do things that brought me joy. I want to spend time with people that brought me joy, because there's the truth of it is that it's people that bring us joy, not just doing the things like painting, but it's people that bring us joy. They're the most precious source of joy, and we have to embrace that. And that's what the joy principle was about. But I wanted to do things that brought me joy, and I no longer wanted to do database management systems and all the things that don't bring me joy, because coding is not something anybody wants to do, really. There's no joy in coding.
Can we ask Stonzi's husband that? Isn't that what Jeff does?
Yes, he is
I think you
coding in the
probably
next
agree.
room right now.
If he's watching, he's probably like, "Yep, true."
Yeah, there's no joy in that JavaScript that doesn't work. No, there's 3 days of trying to figure out the script. Anyway, so I didn't want to go back to that. So I started, I just started painting. And for no reason, it was just the joy of doing it. And I by the October of 2019, I decided I wanted to do charcoal. So I figured out how to make charcoal because I didn't have any, and started and started painting out, started drawing charcoal portraits. And that is, and from that, people kept asking me why. And you just said about the speed of, I'm doing. It's not about the speed. It's because I have to make this emotional connection with people. And at that moment, the reason why it's so quick, I try to explain to people, is that at the moment you connect with somebody, it's fleeting. We connect and assess and value somebody in seconds. To sort of sustain that over a period of time while you're trying to draw the face. So you connected with their essence and you feel that connection. You can't sustain that for hours. You have to capture that quickly. Just as you make a decision about somebody the instant you meet them, that's the same thing when you're trying to draw a portrait. You capture that essence within seconds. Anything after that is just decoration, and it really is about that moment. And like I say, it was the joy of doing that, experiencing that, and it's hard to sustain it because being happy and jubilant and excited for long periods of time, it's exhausting. so you just have to do it quickly, and that's why I ended up doing that so quickly. And people started asking me, and I started to break it down. And one of the main things that I tell people is zero expectations. Art, there is no expectations, no failure. There's no win in making art. You just make it. It exists. It doesn't exist, then it does exist, and that's all that you have. You don't have to have these standards you have to apply to. You don't have to understand techniques. It's not about any of those things. It's about the experience of doing it and bringing something into the world that didn't exist before. If it's a portrait, it's even better because unlike landscapes, which, they sort of, anybody can draw landscapes, but when it comes to people's faces, when you capture their essence, that's a wonderful thing. You cannot experience art in any other way than capturing somebody's essence. And that's such a precious thing if you can do it. But it revolves around this. You cannot fail. You just got to have no expectations. You've got to connect with your curious child, which is where we all come from in terms of our creativity. Everybody was creative at one bit. It's when adults told you weren't. When an adult said to you, that cow doesn't look like a cow, is the point that you decided that you're not going to be an artist. But that was wrong. That was wrong. It's not about nurturing. It's about understanding the relevance of creativity in our human development. It's a cognitive process. But people get put off very early on by ignorance, whether it's adults, whether it's parents, whether it's teachers, or whatever it is. They don't understand the value of creativity in the human development. And that for me is where I sort of sit with the teaching side of it, because it transforms. I mean, I can transform somebody's drawing within 20 minutes by telling them these things. And the biggest thing is to say drawing isn't art. And I explain why. It's about this creating this pure creative intention. That's what it's about. And that's where you see true art. All great artists have that. These people that replicate photographs and make them, detailed, they're not artists. They're just technicians. But true artists, Picasso said it when he referred to drawing like a child, he meant this ability to connect, this ability to actually be that pure creative intention. That's what children have, and it just gets knocked out of them as they get older. It's just driven away, and that's where one of my students, I tried to bring it back, try to help them to connect with it. But a lot of people, it's buried deep, and to try and bring it back is very difficult.
As a arts educator, I resonate with what you're saying, because even in arts education, there's a bent toward technique and artistry and creativity often suffers. And, you know, even in music, the artistry is in the form of trying to interpret someone else's art and play it expressively. And but people that really, like you said, that transcend that are true artists, like you find them at all levels of technique. Like I have a student right now who everything that comes out of her mouth is art, and it's like her soul. She sings with her soul, and it doesn't mean every sound that she makes is perfect, but that like doesn't matter. I want to hear her sing because she sings with her soul, and I think
Yeah,
that's maybe what you're talking about
yeah,
is the portraiture, the art, it's that soul expression.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It is. It is that pure creative intention. It is that, and it's in all of us. That's the thing. It's in all of us. That's the tragedy that people. I once years ago saw a guy who was painting, and he was in his 90s, and he was not very well, and he had to hold the brush with two hands to do it. And I said to him, "It's such a shame that you had to wait so long to be able to do this."
Mm.
All those years of not doing that. And as I said this afternoon, work's been a bind at the moment, and it's difficult with it being nights and things. But this afternoon, I was all day. I've been drawing, and it cleanses it. It takes me to a different place, and that sort of ability to do that, to repair, sort of feeling tired or just overwhelmed by life. Art or being creative can do that. And that's the value of it. That's where the healing part is, because it's obviously something that's in all of us, but we unfortunately it gets buried.
So true.
You have to unmute yourself in order for people to see it or hear you. You said before that, I think you said something like anybody can draw a landscape. Which I thought was very funny because we work at Hearts and Art with a lot of adult patients who are so afraid to do a stick figure, let alone a landscape, because they don't understand that yet, that it doesn't really matter and that you can do it. Were you always creative and artistic? Like, has portraits and things been something that has been a part of your life, or did that sort of develop because of what you went through with your cancer?
I have been. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah, I have been. Years ago, I used to paint watercolors, landscapes, funny enough, and it was. I did it for the wrong reasons, and that is this alludes to what's happened with the portraits. I never painted portraits. I never drew any portraits. But I used to do it. You see, there are people. We've talked about the adults saying that cow doesn't look like a cow. There are people that just say, fair enough, I can't draw. But there are other people that try and make the cow look like a cow. And I was one of those people, just to please the people that said, oh, this is prescribed as what art is, so you have to conform to that. And that's what I did. And so I was drawing landscapes and painting landscapes in watercolor and doing it for the wrong reasons. I was doing it to please other people. It was not beneficial to me. I hated doing it. I do it once a year. And ultimately I stopped doing it. It just wasn't fun. So there was no benefit from doing it for me. And that's kind of what happened when I came back to it all those 30 odd years later. And doing portraits, which I'd never done, and working in oils, which I'd never done. What was happening was that it was beneficial, that I was feeling it was for nobody else but my own benefit, and I really felt the impact of that. I didn't want to show it anybody, and I didn't want their approval. I didn't want their and to buy it or anything. I didn't do it for them. I just did it for my own benefit, and that is where the healing started. And it was just for the joy of doing it. That's why it's called the joy of portraiture. It was just for the joy of doing it. So I kind of played the game a little bit all those years when I was a teenager, but it was just was being steered in the wrong way, and I ultimately, stopped doing it and got into coding. so not a fun place to be. I now know it's taken me 30 years to work out that I didn't really want to do that.
Well, glad you figured that out before the end. It reminds me of the Elon Musk quote, which I think I will probably butcher it, but essentially the essence of was that people, really smart people will often work to perfect something that shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes maybe what it sounds like is we can sometimes lose the purpose of art and get lost in the doing of art. And like the technique, and like what I talk about with my students, the technique should serve the purpose. The technique is not the purpose. The technique serves the purpose. Is that kind of like what you're getting at?
Yeah. It is. It's they used to say something about the medium is not a message, didn't they? And it's the same kind. It's the same kind of. I mean, that's an old adage, but that's the same kind of thing. It's never the technique is never the art. I say to students that you shouldn't confuse skill with art. Because at best, it's the means to create it, and at worst, it's the reason not to. And that's what. And that's what.
Hold on. Say that again.
You should never confuse skill with art, because at best, it's the means to create it, and at worst, it's the reason not to.
That's the quote of the day.
That'll be on a social media post coming soon to Arts for the Health of It.
Yeah, it is that, because it's when people, when I see students and they get wrapped up in the technique, and I've got to sort of drag them kicking and screaming away from it. Say, really, this is not, no amount of technique will fix a bad drawing. If you can't get things in the right place, and I have this technique that I call the 3 dots. I can teach people to draw portraits using 3 dots. So that's my thing. I use a system that I developed, and it helps people to draw portraits. It helps people to draw full stop, but it's just about these 3 dots. And it was because some students were getting bogged down with technique, with all the anatomy and the methods, the Riley and there's another one, I forget his name now, but there are different techniques that people get embedded with all the academic training, and they just weren't getting it. And as soon as I said, let's do it with 3 dots, it changed, and then they could draw. And then it's just using 3 dots to work out how accurate your observation is and improve your observation, and then use the 3 dots to actually start positioning the elements of the face. And that's all it is. So it takes away all the complications of geometry and understanding the cheekbones and see, I don't know any of that. I don't know any of the anatomy of a face or anything. I just draw what I see. And I have a kind of, I say, 3 dots, and it's about light, shape, and tone. That's all it's about. So those are the 3 things you have to remember when you're looking at a portrait, and it's easy. And well, anything can be drawn that way.
Richard looks like he has a question. Go ahead.
Because that's so fascinating to me that you I know nothing about the face and structure, but I do it with 3 dots. I just can't. I want to throw up. Well, since we're talking about that, I just want to throw up some of your portraits.
Wow.
Just 3 dots, everyone.
If you're listening, you got to go to our YouTube channel or our Facebook and see.
It's just crazy
artwork. Wow. Well, and what's ironic, because you say your focus isn't to make like picture perfect renditions of these images, but they're
realistic.
Yes, they're very realistic.
But well, that's the thing. It's the realism thing versus realistic. And for me, it's about capture. If you capture the light of someone's face, the tones and the shadows of the face, then you capture their essence. And the realism, if I can, I'm scanning around now to try and find one portrait that's just knocking around I've got they're everywhere in it. But if you ever look at what I do, is I do this thing called reduction, which is where to take away. See the lightness is never in the detail. It's never in the detail, because we can see people's face from 100 yards. We can recognize them from 100 yards. So that's never about eyelashes, and it's never about, sort of the waves in their hair. It's about something else. So we need to take away all those things that we see as we get closer to get to the essence of what we need to capture a likeness. So that's what it's about. If you look at the way that I focus on the elements, and sometimes they're not even drawn. They're very loose in the way they are, but yet they look realistic because I've focused on the bits that matter. I've reduced the elements to the bare minimum, and that's why it's realistic. Because one of the things that happens is that, like I say, I don't want to show you, I don't want to draw every line. I want to just draw enough so you can see what I see. And what happens is, when you engage the viewer in a way that they have to complete the drawing because you've only just hinted at the eye shape or whatever, they're engaged within it, and all of a sudden they relate to it even more because they're filling in the blanks. So that's part and parcel of what it is to make a realistic portrait. But like I say, it's never about trying to make it detailed. It's never about trying to get every eyelash or anything like that. It's something completely different. It's a much more focused approach to making portraits. But inevitably, they look realistic. I can't help that.
That's fascinating. The one question that comes to my mind, or one thought that comes to my mind, is you're talking about capturing the essence of people, and there's this, it seems like there's this deep sense of knowing and really seeing and noticing people. And I wonder how people respond when you show them the portrait that you make of them.
Well, there's two stages to this, right? So I've just done my friend John. I'm just gonna let me jump up and I'll show you.
Yeah, go get it.
Just done my friend John, who I work with, and this is him.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
This is John with his sneaky little look. I can see there. So I've just, now there was two stages to that. Now one thing, I always like to capture people's natural state. Now, when you're painting a portrait, often you get the portrait stare. You see it where people they'll sit like that and they'll stare and stare. People draw that. Now that's not real. That's just somebody posing for a portrait. What I do is, and this is something that I don't think other artists do, I film people. I film them on my phone, whether it's a model or whether it's like John when we're in the canteen at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I film him, and while he's chatting to me. And whilst he's chatting to me, he's talking and he's just laughing and joking and he's very relaxed. And I capture that moment when I think that is his essence, that's his natural state. And then I then capture that image and then I draw that image. So that is what the state that John was in at 3 o'clock in the morning the other day, and he was looking at me quite annoyed, as you can tell. He's like, "Why are you sticking that thing in my face?" We
won't ask how many drinks he had before that video.
No, none at all. None at all. We were working. We were working.
Oh.
So the point is that the point that what you capture the image, or maybe if I draw somebody from life, it's a very unnerving proposition for someone to sit to have the portrait, because someone's looking in their soul. That's the thing. It's often when you talk about painting a self-portrait, you often talk about you're sort of exposing your soul to the world. But when you're drawing somebody, the idea that someone's really looking at you, particularly women. If men are not so bad, but females tend to be very uncomfortable when someone's really staring at them, and so there's that's one aspect of it. You have to get over that. And what I do if it's a live person, then I chat a lot with them, and I get them to relax, and I get to know them better, and then I can paint them better because I know who they are really, and if I can video it, I'll do that as well. If it's a still image, I try and imagine a persona for that person. And it's about connecting to the human aspect of it. So I try and imagine what they're thinking and where they've been and where they're going to go and what kind of life they have. And So I imagine that, so that gives me a better insight and a better connection with them. So, and that's what I put into the drawings. And then when I show them, well, generally it's weird. It's kind of one guy, the guy that fixes my car. For Christmas, I did his portrait. I said I would, and I did his portrait. And now this is a big, hairy guy that fixes my car, and I never see him with oil on his hands and his face and whatever. But I drew him, and he was in tears when I gave it to him, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know he was moved to tears when I gave him the portrait. Now that's weird. It's a strange kind of. This is the thing about portraiture. It's a different level of art when you capture, particularly when you capture people's essence. It's not like a landscape thing, because a landscape, as you know, with landscapes, it generally relates to things like place identity. If you're talking about sort of philosophical or psychological terms, you're talking like place identity. So a painting of a seascape or whatever, where someone's been on holiday, that moves them and said, "Oh yeah, I was there. I remember all." So it triggers all those memories. Painting people or doing portraits is a different level of response, whether it's the subject or their friends and family. It's a different level of response, and that's as I say, that's quite a fascinating thing. I've done a lot of things where. The same guy, the mechanic, his auntie was 99, and his other auntie had died. So he gave me a picture of them in their heyday in the 50s, and I drew it. And she got dementia, the one that's still alive in Scotland. She's not in a home or anything. She's still at home, but she got dementia. So he took it up on her birthday, and she instantly recalled the days, those from that moment, in the 50s, from the image that I'd drawn. So it's such a powerful thing. It's far more powerful than, as I say, landscapes. Landscapes works in a different arena. It's not as focused as portraits, but people are pretty good. I mean, I don't do it for money. Otherwise I wouldn't be working nights at a warehouse. But I do it. The big thing for me is teaching people, because I want people to understand that it's a bit like you. This is not a hard, difficult thing to do. This is good for your soul. This will bring joy to your life, and don't get hung up on skills and materials and all that sort of thing. You can't fail at this. This is something you cannot fail at. And as I say, that's what I try to get at. Not many people take me up on the offer, to be quite honest with you. I've got on my website, if you've seen, there's 116 videos on there of me drawing portraits. So there's nearly 200 hours, and I've got 4 students. I've spent all that time doing all those videos, and I've got 4 students. That's terrible.
Well, you might have more after this. I think you've really sold us on portraiture. So if someone wants to start, tell us about the resources you have. What's something that they can maybe start with?
The thing is that I don't have a massive amount of skills. Massive amount of tools. I make my own charcoal. Let me just quickly. I have a bucket of charcoal.
Oh,
I make charcoal from vine that grows in the garden, and that's a piece of it there. Like you see,
oh, wow.
It just grows in the garden, and I make it out of that. And I have a putty rubber and some cheap cartridge paper. So the sort of tool entry thing, is 0 cost, more or less. It is for me. It's just the cheap paper. But as far as getting into, if you went to a website, you can understand. I mean, I talk about mindset on the website. I don't know if you've seen when I talk about how important the mindset is. And a lot of that runs through in the videos. I always talk about having the right mindset and right attitude to it, which is all about, not zero expectations and really not people make it difficult for themselves to become, to make portraits. So as far as, if they wanted to, there's a 2-day free pass to all the videos. So you just sign up for that and you can see all the videos. There's challenges on there. There's the dot thing is explained on there as a challenge. And just pick and choose. I literally supply an image and I show people how I draw it. So they can take that image and they draw it in the same way if they want to draw it in the same way. But I talk about how I do it, how I approach it, and it's very simple to do. It's not I don't make it difficult. A lot of people run these courses where it is months of 6 months time you'll be able to draw a portrait kind of thing. That's not me. I just want people to be enjoying the process as quickly as possible.
Cool. So your website is TonySwaby.com.
Yeah.
SWABY.
Yeah.
.com. So you can go check out all those resources.
Yeah.
I want to turn this off so I can go sign up. And
I do it right now.
You make it you were talking about your attitude and joy. You just talking to you makes me want to think that I can do it.
You can.
You've sold me on the fact that I can do it. I'm excited. I want to sign up. This is great. I know we're out of time, but I want to ask one last question two last questions. How has making your own art materials changed the way, maybe it hasn't, changed the way you make art?
Well, first of all, it's better. I mean, you can buy the expensive things, the charcoal, for instance. And I did recently. I did a sort of a like for like test with the stuff that I make and the stuff you buy, and it's nowhere near as good. One of the things I talk about, and you'll see in some of the videos, I talk about what I expect from the tools. Because when I use a piece of charcoal, I expect it to be. I don't want to keep changing it. I just want to use one piece, and that's it. I want it to have from a technique point of view. I want it to fulfill all the requirements. I want it to be dark enough. I want it to be soft enough. I want it to make very delicate marks if required. But that aside, the thought of making art. I mean, I've done it with clay as well. Somebody said to me, I bet you could draw with dirt. Someone once said to me, if you're a true artist, you can draw with the blood in your veins. That's what they said. And he said, well, could you make art with dirt? And so the nearest thing I could find was clay in the garden. So I let it dry and made it, and I did a portrait in clay. But there's something about making art with materials that you've made that doesn't. It's not like getting it from the shop and all the problems. It's almost like, because I tried 17 different kinds of wood to find the right wood for me. It doesn't necessarily. I use willow and all the rest of it. Ivy's a vine, and I used to use jasmine, but doesn't grow in the garden anymore. But now I use ivy, and so I tried all these different, and the joy of trying to find was as much a joy as it was actually making art with it, because it was just that, I don't know, it's that kind of exploration into something that was different. I was still being creative. I was still trying to find the right tool to do the job. And it's such an enjoyment. And even now, I really like making it. I make so much of it, I don't need it all, but I just like making it. I'm making a little tin. Sorry about this.
There's more charcoal.
Maybe your 4 students will buy it from you.
I'm making a little tin like that. I put it in a little tin like that, and we've got coal fires in the house, so I can just put it on the fire, and away you go. And that's it. Wow. It's just 4 hours, and it's I leave it on for I don't. I made it with hawthorn for a long time. It doesn't grow in the States, but hawthorn was my preferred choice. But it's because it was more like graphite. But now I just use the ivy, because I get such a range of tones. But it is such a fulfilling thing to actually make the stuff that you make the art with. And people look at me strange. Someone said yesterday, "You make your own charcoal?" Yes, it's easy. It's really easy. There's no effort at all in making it. And it's certainly less effort than going down the shop and buying it. And it's a lot cheaper. So
it's probably like growing your own food.
It's on a line. It's on a par with that.
Yeah. My final question is, how's your health?
It's good. I've had my final procedure, shall we say, about 3 weeks ago, and that was okay. And then I've got to have my last blood test now, either this week or next week, and hopefully I'm okay. I kind of there are side effects. I've got things that are wrong with me because of it, but I'm okay. I'm okay. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
I would like to go now so I can go to tonyswaby.com and sign up. So as much as I'd like to continue to talk to you, I would like to also say thank you for being here. Goodbye. So I can go do that.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
It has been a pleasure talking to you, and I am very thankful that you jumped on with us today.
Thank you. It's been great. I really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you for watching and listening wherever you're doing that. Make sure you're subscribing wherever you're watching and listening. We have new episodes and new interviews all the time. Keep creating, everyone. We will see you later. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Arts for the Health of It, a podcast produced by Hearts Need Art, creative support for patients and caregivers, in partnership with the National Organization for Arts and Health. You can help others learn about the healing power of the arts by subscribing, sharing, and reviewing the podcast wherever you listen or watch. The podcast is hosted by Richard Wilmore, co-hosted by Constanza Rader. Our theme song, Songbird, is written and performed by Natalie Lane. Visit heartsneedart.org to learn how you can support our mission to create joy with people facing life-altering health challenges. Join us next week to learn more ways you can create arts for the health of it. The views expressed on this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views of Hearts Need Art, their staff, board members, or other affiliates. All content is created for informational purposes only. This podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice or to diagnose and treat any health condition. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health professional with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you heard on this